or
forgot to do that, sorry.
That's okay. Recording in progress. Yeah, it's here we are, right? Technology, it is useful, but it is sometimes challenging. So yeah, good to see everyone today. And the one thing I will also encourage you to do is, if you want to, on your name square, if you want to add where you're from, that would be great. I know that there's a lot of, I can't tell, you know, some names I don't recognize at all, which of course that's understandable, but it'd be great to know where people are from. And you can also put that in the chat, but it'd be nice if it was attached to your name square, which you can do by hovering over your square. And then there's 3 dots at the top, and you should see a menu pop up that says rename, and you can change your name up there. And sometimes I know people even have other names that aren't them at all. So yeah, that would be terrific. So with that, I'm going to try to bring up my presentation, and it's going to take me just a minute because I have a very weird Zoom. I have a weird Zoom thing. So I don't know, you might see a black screen. I see a black screen for like a whole 15 seconds. So let's see if I can get this going in the right way. I've got part of it here. Now I've got the lovely black screen. Luckily, I know it's not the screen of death. It is just thinking very hard. And now I should have I've got black again, and there we go. So I hope you are all seeing that. And yeah, welcome. I've got to figure out also how to move the panel of faces there. Okay, good. I've got a thumbs up. So welcome again to the 24th annual, hard to believe, but yes, 24 years the NMFMA has been holding our annual conference, and it has really grown. Both the number of participants and the shape of our work has grown as it should over the years. So welcome this year. We've got a lot to share. 2021 was incredibly busy, I'm sure, for all of you, as well as for the NMFMA staff. And 2022 is looking to be just as busy. So we've got a lot of information to share. And I also want to remind folks that you've got handouts that were sent with the daily email. So you should find handouts there that are relevant to the presentations, and you can also get those handouts on our on the website. So, and I'm happy to share this presentation after the conference as well, in case there's anything from here that's useful to you all. So we're going to take a look at the year. I hope we're going to go forward. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So I want to start by acknowledging our really terrific board of directors. We have more folks than usual, unusually retiring all at once this year. And I really want to thank them for their service and the great contributions they've made. Those folks are Adelma Nyasco, Alma Makatiko, Joseph Fye, and Rosemary Romero. We really appreciate everything they've done to help steer the ship that's the NMFMA. We also had one vacant seat because there was a member who dropped out real early last year. So we actually have 5 open seats this year. Our current board is fabulous. We have Bryce Townsend, who's a farmer from San Felipe Pueblo, Cindy Talamantes, who is a market manager from Los Alamos, as well as she started the Pewaukee Farmers Market. She lives up in El Rito. Jedrick Lamb, who is now a school teacher, but he's also a farmer, and he lives in Bosque Farms. Linda and Mario Rosales are chili farmers extraordinaire. They have several farm stands, and they live in the Socorro area in Lemitar. And then Ralph Vigil, who is a farmer from East Pecos, and the name of his farm is Isla de Molina. and he sells to the schools and sometimes at farmers markets. And finally, Todd Taylor, who is a rancher from Roswell, New Mexico, and his family ranching company is called Ranch Line. So that's our fabulous board. We've been encouraging people to be sure they vote for the board. You will be sent a link so that you can vote. And today between 1 and 1:30, you'll meet the prospective board candidates. So we look forward to that. And again, just thanking all the board members for everything they do. And I want to also call attention to our fabulous staff. You know, if we were in person, you would be seeing all of these smiling faces in person, but it's a little harder here by Zoom. You will be meeting most folks or seeing most folks in various presentations throughout the conference. So I hope you get a chance to see everybody, learn about their specialties. We also have a handout that has been sent to you that has all of the staff contact information as well as what we all do. I know it can be hard to keep track of what people are responsible for and who you should reach out to sometimes, but there is a handout that should help you with that. And I just really want to thank everyone on this staff for all the work they do all of the time and support all of you out there. So thank you, staff. It's impossible to talk about staff without mentioning Miss Sarah Grant, who, as many or most of you might know, retired at the end of last year. Sarah was one of the founders of the NMFMA. She was our financial director and, you know, the heart and pulse of this organization in so many ways. And we had a really great party for her out at Reunity Farm in Santa Fe in August. And if you were able to come, I mean, if you weren't able to come, she understands. She still is helping out here and there. So if you didn't have a chance to say goodbye or are surprised to learn that she's retired, you can still reach her by her old email and just say hello or, you know, wish her well. But she's doing really well and we miss her, but luckily we still get to see her here and there. So yeah, always good to see a picture of Sarah here. So for those of you who might be less familiar with the NMFMA, I know there's people here today who are new members, and even for those of us who have done this for a while, it's always good just to really center ourselves back in the mission of the organization, because even as our work evolves and expands over time, we really try to stay centered and true to supporting the work of our farmers, you know, particularly our specialty crop growers. We have a warm spot in our hearts for ranchers and other food producers as well, but particularly for specialty crop producers, and making sure that they can continue to do what they do so well, which is farming. And so we do that through all of you and the networks that we have across the state and the relationships that help build this very special network. So we try to stick to our knitting and stay centered in this work. Just recently, I've had a couple of people ask me how many members the NMFMA had, and I had to really struggle. I didn't know, and so I sent Kat an email and I was like, Kat, how many members do we actually have? And I was surprised to learn we had 244. I would have guessed about 150, but in fact, we do have 244 members currently. And as you can see from the numbers here, about 42% of those are farmers and 27% are farmers markets. Of course, that 27% of farmers markets represents about 1,000 farmers, but there are actually 102 farmers who are individual members. And then we've got farm stands who are members and other organizations that are allied to the field. Grocery stores who really joined our ranks. in 2017 when Double Up Food Bucks started to work in grocery stores as well. We've got a few ranchers and then just, a variety of other interested parties. So, with 244 members, we really try to think of ourselves as a service organization. We still have an old-fashioned 800 number. We all have cell phones. You can reach us by email, and we are truly here to serve you. So if there's something that you need, if you've got an idea, let us know. We're here for you. So thinking about the food system, whoops, sorry about that. Mouse is a little touchy, but thinking about New Mexico's the food system in general. One of the great things about having our conference is that it brings all of us together, and it's a chance to kind of, instead of being in our individual communities, to have a chance to really feel like we can see the forest as well as, being the trees that we are, because so many of you are at farmers markets across the state or at a farm stand or CSAs. You may work in different areas of the food system, but when we look at the whole picture all together, it looks something like this. And I've really left out a few different things because, otherwise you get a really complicated looking chart with all kinds of circles on it. But at the very heart of any food system are the farmers, the ranchers, and the food producers. If we don't have people in the state who are producing the food, we don't really have a local food system. And, that takes a lot of things such as access to land, and it takes water, and it takes access to seeds and knowledge, the knowledge of farming, which can get lost over the generations. But you've got to have your food producers. And, what we're all working towards is what's kind of on the right side of the screen, which are the eaters and the communities across the state who get to enjoy as much local food as possible. Our goal at the NMFMA is to really not only encourage more production of local food and help stimulate the markets so that farmers are encouraged to grow more food, but also to help, I think I lost my train of thought, but to help make sure that the linkages are there between the farmers and getting the food to the people who will eat it. So in between, in a food system, you have, we're really lucky now to have a number of food hubs. We'll talk a lot more about food hubs towards the end of this presentation, but food hubs and distributors who help move the food. They can help with packaging and processing and delivery. And then, you've got the food moving on its way through various programs or directly to the consumers. And so, and then what you see below the blue line is the external factors that really always have an effect on the food system. Some that we can have an immediate impact on, others not so much. Climate change and weather are pretty difficult factors to have an immediate, other than maybe making snow up on the mountains, artificial snow, which uses an awful lot of water. We can't usually impact weather or climate change. Macroeconomics, things like what's happening in the global supply chain, things with oil, the cost of goods and services, that all impacts our local economies. And, farmers will feel that when it comes to labor and also the cost of goods and things that they need for their operations. But right in the middle here, where we've got policy and programs, and policy and programs really impact each other. Sometimes you've got programs which help stimulate policy. Sometimes you start with policy, which can help influence programs. And those are the areas where the NMFMA really is able to try to center our work so that we can have an impact across the food system. So that's just a little quick view of that. Next, I'd like to just kind of put our work where we work in so many different areas these days, but it basically falls into about 6 big buckets of work. So we have a number of things that support farmers. We have technical assistance for retail outlets, and retail outlets includes obviously farmers markets and farm stands, grocery stores and such. Food access, how we help underserved communities access local food. Public education, which is, you know, sometimes we call it marketing, sometimes it's education, but what do we do to help stimulate demand for local food? And then nutrition education, because once we get people interested in food, you also want to help them learn new ways to cook, and the reasons that it's good for their health. And then advocacy, which again feeds into a lot of the program support. So those are the big buckets of work. When we start to look at the programs themselves, which are a little bit, you know, kind of the next level down, which is where you might recognize some of the work that impacts your, what you're doing. And the years that I have here are kind of the approximate year when a program might have started. So for instance, when you look across the gray bar at the top about local food outlets, our work definitely started and was firmly centered in the farmers market world starting in 1994. We continue to support farmers markets in a number of ways. That is there's nothing like the community education and direct prices that farmers receive when they're at a farmer's market. So we'll never abandon our farmers markets. Farm stands kind of came into a little more sharp focus for the NMFMA in about 2008 when they were added into the WIC and senior programs. So that was an important milestone for farm stands. Grocery stores, as I mentioned before, kind of joined our ranks in 2017 when the Double Up Food Bucks program started to serve customers also at grocery stores. And food hubs are kind of the newest set of actors in the value chain coordination, where they are really, some of them have CSAs themselves. So maybe you would think of the outlet as being the CSA, but they also do amazing work moving food across the state. And there's a lot of crossover between all of these programs. Sometimes I wasn't sure whether to put something in the food access line or, you know, if it was up in the local food outlet line. But that's one of the beautiful things, is that all of these programs and work really support each other very, very strongly. The little stars that I have on the items here are because those are some things that I will talk about in more depth at the end of the presentation. So I just wanted to kind of call some of those out. You're going to be hearing about a lot of these programs in more depth throughout the conference. And on different slides, I will actually tell you, there'll be a little bubble that says when, for instance, the WIC presentation is going to happen. So I'm not really glossing over these. It's just that you'll hear about them in more depth later. But the WIC and senior programs continue to be important ways of creating food access for communities in need. SNAP and Double Up, just, I'll talk more about that soon, and you'll hear in greater depth Tuesday from Sarah Thompson and Kirsten Hansen. The NM Grown program is really interesting. NM Grown is our farm to institution. I think in a lot of states it's called farm to institution. Here we call it New Mexico Grown, and that is taking off in some really big ways that I'll tell you about later. And Fresh RX, which is our newest food access program that works at health clinics. So those are some food access programs. You can see, I won't really read all of these to you, but there's been a number of things that we do to directly support farmers. Food safety training was a really big area that we got into starting in, I think, 2017. And from that food safety training grew what we call the Approved Supplier Program in 2019. And that's what enables many small and mid-scale farmers to supply food to the New Mexico Grown Farm to Institution program. So that's become a really, another important way for farmers to increase their sales. We've also done some direct assistance to farmers the last couple of years due to COVID. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we have a really special project, the RFSP Value Chain Coordination Project. That's the one on the far right there, which is an ongoing project, and I'll talk about it later. So I don't mean to, put all of these, say all of these things we're going to talk about later, but I thought this might give you an idea of, you can start looking at the food system in its entirety. You look at sort of the key areas where the NMFMA is providing support services, and then you get down one level more into the actual programs, which we're going to talk a lot more about coming right up. So farmers markets. I think one of the things that you all received in your daily email was market data. That is something that the NMFMA has been collecting at least 20 years, probably 24 years. And I think we were at the forefront of collecting data like that. It's very important because it really is one measuring stick for how direct sales are going. And even though it's not the easiest thing for market managers to collect, and it, you might think it's a little bit wonky, it does provide us a consistent measure. So even if it's wonky, it is a consistently wonky method. And so it's really useful. And what you'll see in the market data that you received this year is that our total farmers market sales were up to 15.4 million. And when I say this year, I mean last year, 15.4 million in 2021, which was up from about 11.5 million in 2019. And the reason that I'm not showing 2020 sales is because 2020 was just a really bad year at farmers markets in terms of not so much maybe the sales, but the amount of administrative burden on our market managers was pretty overwhelming. And so collecting data was not one of the things that was easy for them. They were really busy figuring out how to distribute PPE equipment and how to rejig the markets to accommodate drive-through sales or online sales. So 2020 was a little bit weird, but last year was a really strong year for farmers market sales. We actually have at least 8 new farmers markets. I'm not intimately familiar with all of these, but this is an example, and I can't even tell you where some of them are, but Black Mesa Winery, Grand Street Market, Quemado Farmers Market, Backyard Market, Red Dock Farmers Market, the Town of Tomé, Pecos, and Plaza Fiesta. Those are some of the new markets who have registered with us, and we're really excited to have new markets. We know that there are, lots of challenges. We're here to help new markets, but even for those of you who are in, every market is in a different phase of their evolution. And so spring is always a good time to kind of take stock of where your market is at and where you see it going in the coming years, and how we can help you to reach those goals. A couple of the upcoming sessions that I just want to mention that directly relate to the farmers markets are, we'll be doing our popular rural and urban farmers market forums on Thursday from 1:30 to 3. so you can hear from your colleagues, and it's kind of just a chance to chat virtually as best we can. And then a new market manager training on Friday from 9 to 10. So if you're brand new to the farmers market, or maybe you're just taking over the market from someone, or maybe you just want a refresher course, that is the time to come in and learn. And yeah, we hope to be able to help you all at that point. So how did the other local food outlets do this year or last year? So grocery stores did about 665,000, and that is just in double up sales. We don't know, obviously there could be many more sales of local food at various grocery stores, but in terms of what we can track, it's the double up sales. So that's, you know, just a slice of probably the local food at grocery stores, but it gives us an indication. And farm stands and CSAs did pretty well, 2.2 million. A lot of chili being sold out there. We had 4 new grocery store members join us, 3 new grower co-ops, and 5 new farm stands. I'm really excited to see those new farm stands and grocery stores and the co-ops. I mean, new members, it's really exciting because that's a reflection of what's going on in the communities. So you'll be hearing a lot more about SNAP and double food bucks from Sarah Thompson and Kirsten tomorrow during their all-day 2-part session. But I have to just give the highlights because they were pretty spectacular from last year. So last year, the SNAP and double up sales were 2.5 million. Which is up about 56%. I think the year before it might have gotten to 1.6 million or so. So that's really a testament to a number of things. I mean, one, as the program gets older, you know, you have more institutional knowledge in the communities about the programs. Our partners know it a little better. They can recommend it to their networks a little easier. It was also a big year for, there was a lot of new SNAP money being circulated from the federal government. So there was pandemic EBT money that was out there, and there was a cost of living adjustment. And so SNAP participants were getting more money on their cards, and they were spending it at farmers markets and our other partners. So that's really good news. But that's money that's going directly into farmers' pockets. The WIC and senior sales in 2021 were 353,000. The Fresh RX sales, again, it's our baby program, and it's going to be growing by leaps and bounds. That was at about 50,000 last year. And again, Fresh RX connects health clinics with and their nutritionally at-risk patients with vouchers or CSA shares for New Mexico grown food. So what's coming up for this coming year? It's really great news. So with Double Up, we just got our new 4-year federal grant, which the 4 years is a total of 6.3 million federal and match. It comes out to about 1.2 million a year. We have always, not always, but for a while, we've had about, I forgot how much all of a sudden, 300,000, I think, in state funding. But we are about to get, so just out of this legislative session, we have a new recurring amount of an additional 330,000 for Double Up food bucks. So that's a big win and really needed. And it was, it was made possible by the strong sales showed that there was the need for it. And then we also received that 150,000 that you see hanging out there over here on the side. That is from junior money from the legislative process. And junior money is when a representative or senator get their pocket change, basically. And by pocket change, I mean about $300,000 or $600,000 that they get to spend any way they want for their districts. And so we had two representatives and one senator who contributed money for this, for Double Up Food Bucks. So if you live in the Las Cruces area, you should thank Senator Hamblin for contributing $50,000. In Albuquerque, Representative Bash contributed $50,000. And in the Santa Fe area, it was Representative Matthew McQueen. So they really, they really showed their support, and that will be money that gets put into the kitty for food dollars, which is just great. And Wiccan Senior will continue with our federal money. I'm not sure if there was additional state funds that were allocated this year. We'll probably find out later on from our, when we have a policy session on Thursday. And there is new money coming down the pike for the Fresh RX, program, at least $166,000 for New Mexico grown food. So Double Up and Fresh RX sessions are tomorrow, mandatory for all markets that have, or farm stands that have the program. Thursday, you will definitely want to be at our WIC training, because the WIC program is finally changing and will be all electronic, and you're going to want to hear from the Department of Health. So no more paper checks. It will actually be a mobile wallet and QR codes, and that is really exciting. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much longer on Double Up Food Bucks, but it occurred to me that a number of years ago, when we first brought in farm stands, grocery stores, there was concern among the farmers markets as to, is all the money going to go to the grocery stores? What's going to happen? But as you can see, the farmers markets holds real steady at using about 50% of the Double Up funds, grocery stores about, a quarter of it, and farm stands and CSAs the other quarter. And the other thing that, is really exciting is that pie is growing, right? So that the amount of money that will be going out through the Double Up program is really going to be growing quite a lot. So that's all good news. And so, here I just want to touch on a few of the other things that we at the NMFMA are doing for the farmers markets, in particular, really for all the local food outlets. But, and I think if you're not familiar with these different marketing tools, you might want to really think about coming back, visiting our website, emailing Christina or myself or Allison or anybody, and seeing how you might be able to utilize these even more in your own area. But we do a lot of social media. We have monthly consumer newsletters. We've got really great cooking videos. We have new brochures, which we'll have to find a way to send out to you, because when we were all in person, it was easy, and I was able to just say, okay, grab some and take them home. But now we'll have to mail them to you or drive them to you. Our websites, the blog with original recipes, and then Good Food NM, which is our text messaging program. So if you're not really familiar with these things, you should investigate and come to our marketing session on Friday. Actually, here's the plug. I have to keep moving my black box around the screen here. But so yeah, we do a lot of promotion and nutrition education. Good Food NM is really a fabulous tool. Everybody keeps cell phones in their pockets, right? We do Spanish and English messaging. Michael Green is the man, and you can use this service to also remind your market or farm stand or CSA about your outlet. So come and learn more on Friday, and then sign up your customers. That's really what it's about. They've got to opt in, because it's a mobile messaging thing. They have to opt in, and they can't opt in if they don't know about it. So come and learn how to get them to opt in on Friday. Another thing that we do in the way of, public education and marketing is during August. August, we've made Local Food Connects Month. We usually have the governor do a proclamation. And then it's also National Farmers Market Week is usually that first week of August. And so it's a great time for markets and or other outlets to plug in your own marketing to this time frame. And we provide lots of tools that you can customize. And, it's a good time to have an event. If you aren't sure what to do, but you kind of want to think about it, call us, call and tell us. We can't read your mind too well, but if we even know there's an inkling of interest, we will do whatever we can to help support you. And, maybe you want some advice about how to create an event at your market and invite your local, it's a really great time to invite local legislators. It's really important for them to see what's happening at your farmer's market. So yeah, that's a good time for doing marketing and outreach and planning for it. Start planning for it in winter before you're too busy, because as soon as market season hits, you will be super busy if you're not already. We also did some special promotions last year to get some new customers or subscribers for Good Food NM. And so we did we had a giveaway at the Lowe's grocery stores. We did a personal chili roaster promotion at some of the stores and then gave away gift cards at other stores. And we had about 500 new subscribers enter. So those are the kinds of things that, we can do. And it's just a matter of, tell us what you want in your community. Something that we spent a bit of time doing last year from about December, January through April was we continued our COVID-19 local food supply chain response fund. It was a very long name, but in 2020, we gave away around $444,000 to local farmers and ranchers and collaborative groups. And in 2021, the fund continued, and it had a focus of infrastructure. And so it was a way to help some of the small and medium scale farmers, particularly, underserved folks in rural and tribal areas and young farmers, but who just need, $1,000, $2,500 or so to help with their operations. And so here's one example. I only pulled out a couple. We didn't really require folks to send us reports, but some of the farmers did. So this was a farmer named Karen Sayer, and I forgot to look up where she is, but I think her words say it better than I ever could. But yeah, they're hoping to expand their offerings, and that's what we want, is we want to just help farmers succeed. And we gave away about $218,000 to 89 farmers. So it was a lot of work. We also, very importantly, the way the grant was structured, or the funding, the New Mexico Acequia Association was a co-lead for the project. And we had 8 farmers who became the advisory council, who made all of the decisions. They decided what the parameters of the grant were going to be, who was going to, receive the grants. And it was a lot of work. We received about 500 applications. So they really deserve a great deal of credit for the work and passion that they put into the project. And here was another just quick example of another project that was funded. And this was for a CoolBot. And, you can see how one of the things that Ann Martinez from Nambe said was, every time we were able to save a little money, we would try to use it to improve the cooler. But it was proceeding very slowly. With the grant we received, we were finally able to finish it. So, these kinds of really relatively small investments can be such a huge help to producers across the state. And while it's not our primary activity at all, being grant makers, given the circumstances of the pandemic, we were really happy to be able to step in and help out. And that was also with the help a lot of our foundation partners who provided the funds. So yeah, it was a big project, but I think it's helped a lot of folks. And the, oops, okay, just went past one. So the New Mexico Grown, I mentioned our Farm to Institution program, and it's really unique in the country. We have 3 state agencies that are now participating. It used to be just the Public Education Department and the schools, but they recently joined forces with the Aging and Long-Term Services Department and the Early Childhood Department. So, and again, there is going to be a lot more money flowing into this program. So, even though some of you may not be farmers yourselves, you all work with farmers. And if you're farmers, we're not trying to peel them away from your markets. We want them to continue to show up at farmers markets. But if they can add to their operations by also having some wholesale sales that helps make them more successful, then they'll be able to continue showing up at your market. So, this is just kind of good information for you to have about what other market opportunities there are for farmers right now. So there was about $440,000 available in 2021. It's expected to be about 1.8 million more, an additional 1.8 million in 2022. And if your first question or thought is, where is all that produce going to come from? You're right. There's probably not that much produce. That is also now going to expand to include meat and processed goods. So it's going to be some big changes for the program, really exciting ways to build out the food producers in New Mexico. It also the program really relies on our food hubs to help with the program. And you can learn more about this. One of the times you'll hear more about it is at the legislative sessions outcomes, which will be on Thursday from 1 to 1:30. So that'll be another really great session to attend, because there were a lot of big wins at this year's legislature that are going to filter down really quickly, perhaps too quickly, to some of our farmers. So how the mechanism for farmers to participate in that New Mexico Grown program is they have to become part of the approved supplier program. And the reason that there is something called the approved supplier program is because it centers food safety. All of these institutions, schools, preschools, senior centers, they all serve meals to vulnerable populations. And there has to be a way of check and balances that the farmers that have some level of food safety certification. So that's what the approved supplier program does. And I feel like, we've got a commercial here every 30 seconds, but on Friday from 12 to 12:30, and it'll be a pretty quick overview, but you can learn more about the New Mexico Grown program and the approved supplier program, which again, will be helpful if you're, want to give your growers information, or if you're a grower yourself. And a little bit more about the approved supplier program and the way that, the NMFMA, like what our role in it is. We basically provide a lot of coordination services. We're kind of right in the middle between the agencies and the farmers. It all started with our food safety program that we started in 2017, Food Safety for Farmers. So we continue that food safety program, and we provide technical assistance for farmers and for food hubs, and also working with the agencies. So it's something that has just grown exponentially over these last few years. And again, New Mexico is really in a unique and very desirable situation folks across the country are wondering how we're doing it. And I don't know if it's because we're a relatively small state in terms of population. And so there are really deep and good relationships between our state agencies and food hubs and farmers. There are deep, great relationships that make it all possible. So the food hubs, again, I mentioned them because they are becoming a growing force in our food system. There are some who have been around quite a while. La Montanita, I should have a picture of La Montanita here. I don't. La Montanita Co-op has been at the forefront of this for 40 plus years. Agricultura in Albuquerque has been at it, for a decade plus. And then there's a growing number of food hubs across the state who really help small farms scale up their operations because they provide the efficiencies of scale that, if a farmer can't do all the delivery themselves, the local food hub might be able to help. And so we've been doing quite a lot of work with food hubs this last year. And this is just a quick, sorry, that map of New Mexico looks terrible, but it's what you get off the internet. So this is where the current food hubs are across the state. You can see they're kind of clustered, down in the Anthony and Las Cruces area. And then Silver City has one. And then there's a few in Albuquerque area, and they all deliver way beyond their home bases. And then one up in San Juan County. And then there's a few more that are up and coming. One in Shiprock, one in Bernalillo, an indigenous food hub in Bernalillo, and one in Tucumcari. So these service organizations are really important for serving small to mid-sized farmers. And they're like the grease in between, the wheels of this whole food system. So we're really pleased to see how they've just been growing. And to that, we have a project that we've been working on since early 2021, which is an RFSP, which stands for Regional Food System Partnership Grant. And it was $1 million over 3 years. It's a collective impact project. Juana Beta, who many of you saw this morning, who helped facilitate our keynote. He is a collective impact specialist who's working with us on this project. And the food hubs, and we've got state agency buyers. There's about 30 plus partners all together, and just getting into some really deep and important work. So it's, if you're interested in learning more about this, please just feel free to reach out to me anytime. And one of the, I think this is the last slide about the food hubs and the project, but one of the goals of that RFSP project is to come up with shared tools and resources that are available for all of the hubs to use and other value chain actors. And so one of the things that's going to be really exciting is this local food portal. And so the schools are the first partner. They are entering in all of their sales data. Every school district has to enter in the purchases, their invoices. And what it will do is provide us with all kinds of real data about what's being purchased, by whom, where, and at what cost. And then what we can do is create reports that we share with farmers, and the farmers will be able to say, I see they need watermelons in Las Cruces, or look at all the salad mix that's being purchased in Las Vegas. And so knowledge is power, and this is going to help us build our collective knowledge about what is being purchased, so that more can really be grown. And I think I'm just about done here. So, what's going to be happening, in 2022? No one can ever really say for sure. Soil, water, labor, those are all really big questions that hang over all of the farmers. all of the time, and I don't have any answers, but we know that there are concerns and questions and things that affect what they're able to grow. But what we do know is that the market demand is stronger than ever, and that there is new money, more money than ever before, both for things like double up food bucks for our consumers, and for the purchasing power of our state agency institutions who, you know, will be able to purchase with this money. So the markets are strong, and now we just have to help farmers create the efficiencies that they need so that they can do what they do best and, you know, keep feeding our communities. And this is just, again, going right back to where we started off, where I started off. And I hope it, you know, I hope now if the picture was a little bit lacking before, maybe now it's kind of filled in some of the gray areas of the work that the NMFMA is, you know, squarely in the middle of, with all of your assistance to support the local food system. And there were just a couple of other sessions that will be happening this week that I didn't have a chance to plug earlier, and I want to make sure that I mention them. Today between 1:30 and 3:30 is Sarah Silva, who is going to be talking about conflict resolution with an equity lens. And on Friday, even though the last day of the conference, people are like, oh, they've had enough, you don't want to miss the 12:30 to 2 o'clock, because she's going to help integrate. I'm looking forward to this. She's going to help us all figure out how to take everything that we've learned and talked about over these 4 days. What do we do with it? How do we make it useful in the next days and weeks of our lives? And then on Thursday from 12 to 1, we're going to have a really, I'm really looking forward to this as well. Chili Yazzie from Shiprock is going to be talking to us about Indigenous agriculture and his take on things called the modern day alternative, the real reality. And I'm sure he will give us some real reality. So I want to really thank all of our partners. I probably can't get them all on this slide, but, you know, farmers everywhere, farmers market managers, co-op extension, who we work with closely on food safety, La Montanita Co-op, food safety partners, all of the food hubs, our health clinic partners, food banks and food pantries are all doing amazing work, connecting local food and farmers. Our funders, Lydia B. Stokes, the McCune Foundation, No Regrets Foundation, the Thornburg Foundation, Kellogg Foundation. We couldn't do what we do without them. The Department of Agriculture, and they send their greetings. Jeff and Jason aren't with us this year, but they do send their greetings, and there are really important everyday work partners. We're very fortunate to have such a close relationship with them. USDA funds a lot of our work, and the Office of the Governor was just amazing this year. And then our state legislators who really, who all supported the Food, Farming, and Hunger Initiative that you will hear about. And that's how these additional food dollars are going to flow down to our farmers this year. So thank you so much for listening. I thought maybe I was going to end a little earlier and leave more time, but you can see I didn't, once I get going. So, but I think we have a couple minutes, so I'm happy to take any questions if there's anything I can answer.
Hey, Denise, there is a question in the chat, and it says, will eggs be included in NM grown?
That is a really good question. I don't know the answer. I laugh because we're just trying to figure out, and by we, I mean the really big we of the state agencies and all of the, on the back end, are just getting together to discuss what those parameters are going to be. And I don't know the answer to eggs, but we're going to find out. So stay tuned. It's a good question.
If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. It looks like we have about 3 minutes before we need to move on. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we can call on you, or type it in the chat.
I like that one comment, Sarah G, the legend. Indeed.
All right, Kelly, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask Denise your question.
You're muted, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly, yeah, we can't seem to hear you. If you want to type your question in the chat, then we can look at it that way. Let's see, and while Kelly is typing, we do have a question from Virginia in the chat. It says, what do we do with our rural seniors who want to use WIC coupons but don't have cell phones or computers?
So that's a really great question. And I have to say, I don't know all of the answers, but I know that the Department of Health is really aware of that as a challenge. And so I don't know what the answer is really my answer, because I don't know for the QR code. I don't know the answer. I would be making it up. So if you come to the WIC session, Sarah Flora Sievers and Veronica will tell us all. They're making extensive plans to make sure that everybody is supported. But I'm sorry, I don't know the answer.
Right, and then just one last comment before we move on. Kelly typed in the chat that they need nuts included in the South for their area. I'm assuming that's probably for in and grown as well. Nuts,
did you? Yep, all of that is being, is under, it's all being discussed. And I'm just trying to type in my contact information here, farmers markets. Or my phone number and please reach out anytime.
All right. I think that concludes it for the State of the Plate. So thank you so much, Denise, for all that you shared with us. It was a ton of information. Chris, I would suggest that you get in contact with maybe Denise to follow up on how you can get involved with those conversations. I think she dropped her contact information in there. You can also find it on our website. All right.